Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Effective Living. I'm excited about this evening's conversation. Some great things have been happening with our Effective Living platform. It is growing by leaps and bounds, and I'm so grateful for my team because it is our goal on a weekly basis to help you discover the principles necessary for winning. Now, lately we've been doing a series of talks centered around divorce, centered around relationship. And tonight, we're about to dive into one that literally brings about some ideas that everybody should be looking at when they've experienced what we're about to talk about, and that is life after divorce. And so if you have not subscribed to this channel, do me a favor, please subscribe to the channel. In addition, if you have a question, I'd love for you to go ahead and put the question in the comment section. You can like this page, you can share it, because there are so many people who just don't know how to capitalize on the fact that they still have life and they still have an opportunity to live. I'm Coach Ricardo Miller, and tonight I'm joined with Coach Twyla. What's going on, Coach?
Hi, Coach Ricardo. Yes, excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
I'm excited to have you back with us. You was with us before. It was a really, really great conversation. And for those of you that are watching us for the very first time, you want to maybe go back and check out our talk with Coach Twyla. Now, here's the deal. You have established yourself with this platform and service that we're going to really dive in about tonight and bring to light a lot of what people need to be thinking about. But before we do that, tell our viewing audience about Twyla Marks.
Yes. Thanks again for having me. I'm Twyla Marks. I'm an author. I'm a podcast host. And here lately, I'm a divorce life coach. And I'm a mom. I'm a speaker. And I am a divorcee. That's why I can speak positively about this experience. Going through divorce is a traumatic experience, but there is life after divorce, for sure.
That's what I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, effective living is centered around 5 pillars. It's faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. We believe that no matter where you find yourself in life, you want to do well when it comes to those 5 particular areas. The interesting thing about it is divorce have a tendency of affecting all of those areas. Divorce will rock you in all of those areas: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. The reality of it is sometimes you don't want to have fun no more because you're going through your finances start to get wrecked, and some people just let their bodies go. In other words, all kinds of things start happening in your body from the stress that happens from a divorce. And then you have family breakups. You know, the people who came together once to think that we will be together forever as a family sometimes find that there is division among us because there are so many different opinions going on among families. And last but not least, where was God when this was happening? Because some people are questioning the whole idea of faith after going through a horrible divorce. Now, Twyla, please share with our viewing audience as we get ready to really dive into this subject matter. Share with our viewing audience a little bit about your divorce journey.
Absolutely. So, yes, I was married for 10 years. We had a thing that you call a blended family. He had a son, I had a daughter, and we had a son together. And now I've been divorced now for 13 years. And when I tell you, Coach Ricardo, what you just stated, you're on it. That is so true. One thing about it, I feel like with myself, for me, my faith in God, it did increase. However, I still felt like a failure because I felt like I let my children down because that family dynamic and relationship was severed at that time. However, I started working on Twyla. Who is Twyla? Because you go through a divorce sometimes, I wouldn't say all the time, I don't know for each and every person, but for me, I lost who I was. I lost my self-identity. I didn't know who was Twyla. I was with this man for 10 years and I had to get back to who is Twyla? What does Twyla like to do? And at the same time, take care of 2 minor children. they weren't babies, but they were a preteen and a teenager. So my daughter and my son. So yeah. And I felt like everybody at my church was staring at me because, oh my gosh, the D word, I got divorced. And, actually we changed churches as we were going through that whole entire process. So you kind of feel embarrassed, but at the same time, you keep your faith in God, knowing that God is going to see you through. God never fails us, right? He never fails us.
Let's talk about it. You mentioned the D word. I know a lot of people, including myself, who at some point we don't want to mention the D word. We don't want to mention the D word. When the D word, divorce, that is, ladies and gentlemen, when that word had to be introduced, to your situation or to your home or in your relationship, what was that like to be able to have to decide, I don't want to do this anymore?
Absolutely. It was not an overnight process. I will tell you, it took me probably about 5 years when the thought initially came in my mind. We were married about 5 years, and so I stayed another 5. However, when I finally got to the point to where I cannot do this relationship, this marriage is literally killing me physically, emotionally, mentally, all of that. And so I took a little road trip and just got away, me and the kids. And I really sought God and I prayed and I went to a family member's house, my grandmother. You've heard me talk about her. She's the love of my life. And she lives in a small country town and there was peace there, right? So I needed some peace. And after I left there, Coach Ricardo, before I even got back to Dallas, I knew it was time. I had to go. I had peace about the situation, but I still had some fear, not knowing what the other side was going to look like. This life after divorce side. Yeah.
Some would say, as the Bible states, God hate divorce. And being a believer, being someone who has been taught the word of God, I'm interested in hearing, crossing over to accept that this is what I'm going to do. But now I'm a believer and I know I've been taught God hate divorce, but I've postponed what should have happened 5 years ago to try to believe that this should have and could have possibly changed. Now I teach and I know this to be true. God may hate divorce, but he forgives everything.
That's right.
Okay? I learned that later on. But in the midst of the struggle of having to make the decision to get a divorce, you're thinking from a faith standpoint, and you're thinking about the believers who represents the faith. Talk to us a little bit about that before we dive into this life after divorce, because I'm really interested in hearing you talk about the idea of accepting I'm about to get divorced when we've all been taught God hate divorce.
Right.
And then I have to deal with believers who have a tendency of looking at us, the divorcees, a certain kind of way, and now have to walk through the crowd and have to deal with people being a divorcee. So what was that like? Faith in your relationship with God and going through a divorce, and dealing with the people of faith having to go through a divorce.
Wow. That's a great question, Coach Ricardo. Let's start here. So the one thing I looked at, my marriage was not built on a godly foundation or godly principle. And hindsight's 2020, right? And that's not even about me getting a divorce. It's just a matter of me knowing, or I knew this was not ordained by God, but I went forward anyway. And one of the reasons why I was expecting with our son, that was one thing. So the godly principle or the faith-based principle for my marriage, that was not the foundation. So fast forward, we get divorced, and I actually had issues with forgiving myself because I went back to what I just alluded to, knowing that it wasn't built on a godly foundation. Why did I do this? So I wrestled with why did I even move forward with this marriage? And there were all kind of red flags there, but I ignored them. So dealing with your faith and divorce in Christians and church, my personal opinion, I feel like the church really should help us, this divorcee community, because not everybody's single, not everybody's married. Some of us have been divorced, and the church, I feel we need that support in the church, because a lot of times people may feel like I felt. They feel like a failure. They feel like they've sinned against God, or people are looking at them like, oh gosh, you're such a bad Christian now that you experienced the D word. No. I personally did not feel like I had the support at my church. So I went to outside sources such as counselors, licensed therapists and things of that nature. So I really hope and pray, it's my prayer, that the church will really start to focus on the divorcee community, because they say now the divorce rate in the church, Coach Ricardo, is higher than the divorce rate out of the church.
Wow.
Yeah.
The reality of it is divorce is real, ladies and gentlemen. And as we're talking tonight, life after divorce is our focus. If you have a question for Twyla or myself, I would love to present that during this live. So please don't hesitate to put your question in the comment section. Wherever you're watching from, it will be a joy of mine to hear where you're watching live from. So go ahead and put a comment in the comment section and let us know that you're watching. And if you share, let us know that you shared it as well. Twyla, there are people who go through these different types of experience in life, because you live a while and you discover that life presents what I call bumps in the road.
Yeah.
Okay. Life presents bumps in the road. And oftentimes those bumps in the road are the car got totaled, you got laid off from your job, or you something's going on in your body and you have to go have surgery and so forth. But when it comes to a relationship, when we're talking about a relationship, someone else, the whole term, we're going to go into the question in a minute, but the whole term, I committed to, for rich or for poor, till death do us part,
right,
for better or for worse. Now you're getting divorced, and the signs of someone going through a divorce. If you know signs, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching, put them in the comment section. But let's talk about the signs, and let's go into I'm divorced now. What are those signs, those experiences one goes through at the immediate, in your experience, in the immediate of having gotten a divorce? For give us what you think was some of the more shocking realities or newly accepted things you got to now embrace. It's the separation of resources and finances, but what else? What really got you?
Oh yeah, just the simple idea of being a single parent, that you had a family, and the family dynamic, you had a partner or your spouse to help pick up the kids from school or daycare, or whatever the situation may be or was. But at the same time, now as a single parent working outside the home, you might have to get a village to help you do that, right? And now pay for babysitters that you possibly didn't have to do when you were married. Of course, that's the financial piece. So making sure that your children are mentally okay, emotionally okay, because they are experiencing the trauma just as much as that parent is, with the family now being divided. Maybe they have questions about, when am I going to see my dad, or when am I going to see my mom? I know with some people, the co-parenting dynamic, some children go back and forth every other week, say for 7 days at a time, but there's others that may do it just that every other weekend type deal. So those are some factors. I know for me, with my kids, it was always about my kids, Coach Ricardo. I really, really made sure that they were okay. And we may get into this later about talking or bashing the other parent, so on and so forth. That is a big no-no, because your kids want a relationship, and they deserve a relationship with both of you, unless there's some other reason, such as physical abuse, that would not, deter them from having that relationship. However, in a normal situation where there's nothing going on, and for that matter, your kids want a relationship with both of you. And just because the marriage did not work and it dissolved does not give us as the divorcees the right to keep those kids away from the other parents.
Thank you for sharing that. We have a question in our comment section. The question is, does divorce means lack of faith in God to change your spouse? My faith is in God alone. So to trust, does divorce indicate you don't trust God enough? Is it a lack of faith? Do you believe that it was a lack of faith to believe God to change? Did you trust him enough in the process of your marital situation? That's the question I have.
So no, I don't think that. We went through extensive marriage counseling before I made the decision to leave after praying and asking God and seeking God. We really tried to make it work. It wasn't just one argument. Oh, I'm out of here. Pack my bags and I'm gone. We really did, and it just didn't work. But I don't think it's a lack of faith in God. During that counseling, it was through the church. We also went outside counseling, the licensed therapist, not just the spiritual side of it. And I don't think it is. Somebody may beg to differ, but I don't think it is. I still trust God. I believe God. I believe and know that God has forgiven me because, like you said, Coach Ricardo, he does not like divorce.
I totally agree with you. I don't think it's a lack of faith. If it's a lack of faith, then for those who would have died after praying and fasting for God to take away their disease, was a lack of faith the reason why they died? That's a question. For someone who would have believed God for paying off their mortgage after it's been due because of the pandemic and they got a foreclosure on their home and had to be evicted, was it a lack of faith in believing that God would come through for them in that home situation? No, it's not a lack of faith. No. They still believe. They believe God was going to come through. They lost their home. Was God not available for them? He was. We don't totally understand everything, but at the end of the day, once again, you mentioned you tried to get help, and help did not bring about the solution. And you felt that there was a peace that you had after much prayer and consultation with professional assistance, that you needed to make sure that you did not lose yourself in the midst of this relationship. Let's talk about that. There are some people who their whole life fall apart after a divorce. Oh, yeah. Literally, the whole life fall apart. They just become dysfunctional. They just on the job, they're not functioning right. Taking care of the kids, they're not functioning right. They're not taking care of their bodies. People have a tendency of, if a relationship fall apart, they too, as individuals, fall apart. In your opinion, what are 3 or so reasons for why you think people fall apart like that?
Wow. Yes, people do fall apart. One, their fear, they're afraid. They don't know what to expect. And then losing that, maybe that comfort level. Say if they've been married 10, 15, 20 plus years, and possibly even been with the person even longer than that, obviously before marriage. So that comfort level, that comfort zone that they were accustomed to, this is all brand new. It's basically a new life, Coach Ricardo, that you have to experience after divorce. And you don't know what that look like. And the fear of starting over. Starting over could be moving to a new house, moving to a new city, new state completely. So I think those are a couple of things. And then the third thing is, will I get married again? Am I too old for someone to even fall in love with me? Those kind of things that we ask ourselves after we go through a divorce.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you this: how do you explain to someone, you're a coach, you're an advisor to many. How do you explain to someone that there is life after divorce? Because, like you mentioned, there are people who think, you know what, we acquired a home together. We were able to have investment properties, maybe even started a business. I
Yeah.
mean, we as a couple, this is whoever this is that I'm talking about. There are people who would have believed somewhere along the line. I mean, they were doing great and they ended up with a divorce and they feel as though, you know what, I had to move out of a nice home into what they call a starter position again. And everything just feels like it's not what it used to be. What
Right.
would you say to someone watching us today that there is life after divorce?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, what I would say, sometimes it may be better for you, because I say that, and this is why. Maybe you were with someone that did not support your endeavors and your dreams and your goals. As in, maybe you wanted to start a business, maybe you wanted to go back to school, maybe you wanted to um, just start a venture that the spouse didn't support, or now your ex-spouse, and now you don't have your hands tied. You can do that. You can do that. You can go back to school. You can write that book. You can do whatever your hopes and dreams and desires are, because now you're not tied to that person. So for me, Coach Ricardo, I just started having fun. I just started going to basketball games. Just, that's a simple thing, right? But I didn't do that when I was married. It was all about my kids and the marriage. And so I lost who I was in that marriage.
Yeah. Wow,
Yeah,
there are a lot of people who do lose themselves in a marriage, and you say you just decided that, you know what, I'm going to do what I need to do to get my life back. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes, but I want to talk about the reality that there are some people, Twyla, who have a difficulty forgiving themselves for having a failed marriage. And as our society goes, even in some churches, some ministers are so insensitive
yeah.
that because they haven't experienced divorce, even though their marriage might be going through challenging situations, at the end of the day, if they're holding it together, there are some who would still be condemning those who have gone through a divorce. And so for someone who don't know how to forgive themselves, because the truth is, it's not about what other people think of you. It's about what you're going through and responding to you to make sure that you're in a healthy state so God can still use you. The Bible talks about guarding your heart with
That's
all
right.
diligence. My question to you is, for that person who don't know how to forgive themselves and how to let go of the baggage, the weight, the pain, what do you say to them?
I would say seek professional counseling. I really, you know what, Coach Ricardo, I believe every single person that has experienced divorce at some point probably should seek some type of professional counseling at some point, because you know what, divorce is like a death. You go through so many emotions. But yes, I definitely would say seek professional counseling. Forgiveness is a tough one because you blame yourself. You blame yourself. And in order to move forward, forgiveness is imperative. Forgiving yourself and the other person, both, both.
What about for those of you? I mean, for those of you that are watching, I know there are people sending in questions via text and also in the comment section. But there are people, Twyla, who says, hey, you should trust God. You know, just
Yeah.
believe God. Get in the Word. Get in prayer. Get in the Word. Get in prayer. Not knowing that there are people who would have praying, and there are people who are in the Word and still ended up with a divorce. There are people who are in the Word and people who were praying and still struggle with the pain of divorce after divorce. So when you say get help, some people are saying, I mean, can I just trust God? Can I just trust God? Because remember now, they were initially trusting God to hold their marriage together. Now, the pain of having to go through a divorce to tell them now, here's how to move forward. There are people who are struggling with that, Twyla. They're struggling with getting help but help is available. I'm a strong believer in that. I believe that someone is assigned to help you. And I believe that no one is alone when they're going through their most struggling or overwhelming challenge. Someone wants to help you. The reality of it is some people don't know how to start. And so for you, what would you say? Start with the church, with the yellow pages online, or what would you say how to get that process going in relations to finding help?
Yes, absolutely. So I would look up, if you have insurance, go to your insurance website to see who is a provider for those types of services, counseling services, and find one that works for you. Not every counselor is for everyone, just like not every coach is for everyone. There's someone out there for every single person, right? So I would say start there. I know you said just some people may say just pray about it. Well, that's why there's counselors as well. And I'm a Christian, but I also, you need the Christian spiritual part of it, as well as the counseling professional part of it as you recover from divorce. That's necessary, because the counselor isn't going to tell you, oh, let's just pray. They're going to get down to the really deep matters of the heart and really find out from a professional standpoint where you stand as in your divorce recovery, and where they need to, what action steps they need to take from a therapist standpoint.
That's right on. There are so many people hurting in our world. Yeah. And as you mentioned, divorce is like a death.
Yeah.
Today, I'd like for us to talk about the things that a person should do. The things that a person should do after you're going through divorce. These are critical. These are very important. What are some of those things that really comes to mind, man? Listen, if you've gone through a divorce, or if you're going through a divorce, these are some things you really should be doing. What would you say?
Yes, I would say first, set your mind that you are starting over, right? Think that I'm starting over. This family dynamic, we're no longer together. Second, make sure that you have a strong support system. And when I say a strong support system, not the naysayers in your ear talking about, oh, no, you shouldn't have done that. No, people that are going to speak positive affirmations over your life. People that when you're having a bad day, because Coach Ricardo, divorcees, we have our roller coaster experiences. One day we're up, the next we're down, the next we're mad, upset, crying. So people that can be in your corner to help you through those types of days. And then third off, spend time by yourself. Self-care. If that means going for a walk, if that means going to the gym, if that means going to the spa, or whatever you like to do that you really enjoy doing, do it. And you know what? I talk about your strong support system. These may not be the same people that you knew when you were married. These could be completely different people.
How important is it, in your opinion, to forgive the spouse that you divorced?
Oh, yes. Forgiveness. Oh, goodness. It's very important. They've moved on. And especially if you have children, that C word, the co-parenting, that's imperative. You don't have to be best friends with them. But in order to have a cordial co-parenting relationship, those bitter feelings that we go through after a divorce, regardless if you initiated it or not, it's tough when we're still holding on to unforgiveness. So it took me, Coach Ricardo, I'll be transparent here. It took me almost 3 years, to get there. But we did. But it was a journey. It definitely was a journey, and a process where I sought God and kept asking God, Lord, help me to forgive this man. I need you to help me, because I can't do it alone. So, yeah.
Is there any other practical things you would say to someone if they're struggling with forgiving that significant other that really broke them. It was damaging. It was hard. But now they have decided to move on.
Yeah.
But they're still angry, and we know anger at that level is damaging, and hate and unforgiveness has the potential of keeping you from entering the kingdom of God. And so,
Right.
What would you say are additional practical things that a person can do who's still really struggling with hate?
Right. Well, until we let go of those feelings, it's our lives. It's like we're stuck. It's like we're stuck in that mode, and we may be missing out on the other side of what God really has for us. So I would say, if you are still struggling, and I understand it, I totally understand it, seek counseling. Talk to a friend that you can just really pour out and be very transparent with them. And maybe it's someone that's going through it as well, and they can share their journey and their story with you and things that they did. For me, it was tough. I just had to keep replaying. I kept replaying things in my mind. Should not have done that. This is why it was tougher for me to forgive. I kept replaying things. I can't believe he did this, and just harboring it. So what I did one day, Coach Ricardo, I just wrote a letter, wrote it out. I didn't mail it, but I got it all out. And this is one of the things my counselor told me to do. I wrote it all out as if I was going to mail this letter to him. Right? And after that, it was a turning point for me on the inside, because I was true to myself. These were my true feelings. This is how I truly felt about that man. So yes, that helped me. So I would suggest maybe recommending that as well to some of our viewers and listeners today.
Great stuff. We have a question that goes like this. After the kids are grown, should you cut off ties with your ex? Do you believe that? Explain to me what your view on that.
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I don't believe you should cut off all ties. And here is why. Because he's going to always be their dad, and you're going to always be the mom, right? There's going to be weddings. There's going to be grandkids being born. There's going to be other festive events, because those are your children for life. So I don't agree with that. I don't think you should. Now, limit your interaction, possibly, yes, because the kids are grown, right? Especially if there's not a cordial relationship between you and your ex-spouse.
The role of entering a new relationship after a divorce, now having to introduce your children to someone else, male or female. Mm-hmm. What do you advise to your clients? How early should this take place? Should it ever take place in the initial courting phases, or this is someone else's child, you're now divorced and you want to move on, but you're now about to talk to someone, or you're talking or entertaining a relationship, but you have a child. What's your advice there?
Oh, yes. Oh, that's a good question. You get asked all the time about that, dating after divorce. I would say, don't bring your kids around someone where you just casually dating. You're kind of getting to know that person, and meaning after 2 or 3 dates, it may be time to introduce my kid to this person. Because I say that in not very loosely. I say that because, Coach Ricardo, your kids have a tendency to become attached very quickly. And what if you don't work with that person? They've already experienced the divorce of the family, and now they become attached to this person and say it didn't work. So you don't want your kids to be in that type of cycle. I would say, when is a good time to introduce your kids? When you really feel that this is going somewhere, and introduce your children in a natural, comfortable setting for them. If that's at the park, if that's over dinner, so it's natural and they're comfortable going bowling at it, wherever. So they're in their natural environment, and the other person that's meeting the children, it'll be more comfortable for everyone.
For someone who have gone through a divorce, they're wanting to start afresh and want to live, beyond where they were, but they got body slammed when it came to finances. Their finances went to hell and back because maybe he wasn't good with money or she wasn't good with money. You may have made the money, but now because he destroyed your credit and caused you to inherit some debt, because in the court system, he didn't have anything to give you, so you left with debt, with financial ruin, or you weren't financially taking care of yourself. The spouse was the one taking care of you, and now you're having to hold yourself accountable and manage yourself with a better way of living with your own funds. What financial advice, as a woman who went through divorce, would say to those who are going through a divorce now, wanting to experience life at a whole nother level, want to live again from a financial standpoint? What financial advice you would say to get themselves back on their right footing financially?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the marriage, maybe he took care of all the finances, meaning he paid all the bills. So if that wasn't something you did, maybe seek a financial advisor in how to make a budget plan, because that in and of itself could be scary for some people that did not handle any of the finances, Coach Ricardo. So they may have to learn how to do that, which is okay. It's okay. And on the flip side of that, if you were the breadwinner and you handled the finances and everything of that nature, maybe it's time to say, hey, maybe I need to cut back on some things, right? Because now it's a one income home. It still goes back to that budget word. But yes, I would say seek a financial advisor. And if it's a credit situation where you need to repair or restore your credit, go to a credit counseling service to, repair and restore credit. Because sometimes divorce does, like you say, it puts you out there in shambles financially, especially after all of the fees and attorney costs and court costs and that you go through. It does put your finances out there in shambles for a little bit, but you can rebuild and you will rebuild.
Life after divorce is what we're talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking with Coach Twyla Marks. And Twyla, you're providing such good information for our viewers. My question to you next is, this person has gone through a divorce and they became depressed, and you mentioned get help, and they're pursuing this slowly. They're not advancing at a healthy rate. So unfortunately, they're overtaken by the remote. So watching too much TV, eating too much junk food, not going out, becoming antisocial. The role of bad practices or habits that oftentimes happens in the life of a person who's gone through a devastating experiences. What advice would you say to that person who's become addicted to Netflix and don't ever want to socialize and go out anymore? The person who's addicted to the sofa and has the remote in their hands with just fried chicken and French fries, and it's just it's their way of coping.
Yeah.
But we're talking about life after divorce. The reality of it is, reinforcing bad habits won't give you life again. You have to eliminate those bad habits. Talk to us about eliminating bad habits that can hinder us from living after a divorce.
Yes, yes, that is great. Oh my goodness. Yeah, definitely. Don't isolate yourself. Eliminate those bad habits because you're already feeling lonely, because the marriage failed. So get out there, and I get it. You may be introverted. Not everyone is extroverted like me. But yeah, get out there, have a friend come over. If you don't want to go somewhere, invite someone over and y'all just have girl chat, and at the house. But definitely fix yourself up, get dressed, get your makeup on. And if you look better, you'll feel better. And so if sitting around the house watching Netflix and by yourself all day, every day after a divorce is bad news, because that can possibly put you in a depression state. You don't want that. So yes, do something. It may just walk to the mailbox. If you live in an apartment, walk around or go to the pool. Sit out there by yourself at the pool area, but get out of the house and do something. And it doesn't even need to be or have to be a financial cost. You could just go, like I said, go to the pool, meet your neighbors. If you've moved, maybe you have new neighbors now. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Let's toughen this up. Twyla, we're gonna toughen this up. But there are people who, when you think about going through a divorce, initially they had a standard. They got married. They were committed to that one particular person, but now that person hurt them to a degree where they feel as though, okay, man, I can't believe I lost what I had.
Yeah.
But they found themselves out there, and they're sort of overly engaging in the relationship with let's just say, from a male standpoint, the male is now starting to sleep with a lot of women because he feels as though this is his way of feeling okay. Or a woman who is not accustomed to being alone finds herself being somewhat too easy and too open, and now sexually involving herself with multiple relationships, not with the intent to go out there from a multiple relationship standpoint, but the boundaries are no longer there because you're married. You're now opening yourself up, and you've become very you've become used to being taken care of sexually. So now you're single, and you say, you know what, this person is interested and that person is interested.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. The discipline to have a standard, the reinforcement of applying the rules of engagement prior to your divorce, and so forth. What's your view on making sure that you don't set yourself up to be that person, male or female?
Yes, I totally agree with you. Yeah. So, like I said, some people, because they're looking for some type of fulfillment, Coach Ricardo, something to fill the void. And so, whether they turn to the sex or whether they turn to drinking or any other substance of that matter, that's what they're looking for, something to fill the void. So when we fall into that state, like I mentioned earlier, go do something. Get off the couch. Don't become a couch potato. Get off the couch. Get up in the morning, get dressed, go somewhere and do something. And expend that negative energy that you have just sitting around. Go out, go somewhere. If you like to dance, like for me, I like to dance. I took myself out. And where can you go dancing? You got to go somewhere where they play music. And I'm not talking about my praise dancing. At church, get your praise on. At church, I'm talking about I wanted to go dance. And that's what I did. And I still do. And it's fun. And there's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, everybody has their own thing that they like, to do. Whether it's listening to music or going swimming or going to the spa. But yes, they're filling that void. So if that's where you are, and to fill the void, wanting to go sleep with this person or that person, try not to fall into that, because really, to be honest, it's almost like a setup to have your heart broken because your heart isn't healed from your previous marriage.
Let's talk about that same part of heart not being healed. There are people. When would you say it's okay to start another relationship? Before there are people who
Yeah.
someone's interested, but you're 6 months out of a divorce. Someone's interested,
Yeah.
and they look good. They got a lot going for them. I mean, male or female. At the end of the day, how important is it to make sure that you are okay and you have dealt with whatever you've been dealing with in relations to the damage or problems you had in your previous relationship?
Basically what you're saying, to make sure you're ready for another. Yeah. So that looks different for everyone, right? It may take someone 2 years, may take someone else 6 months, 3 years, what have you. When you are ready, meaning when you see that other person, your spouse, and no emotion comes up, you're no longer tied to him or her emotionally in that sense, and you might feel like you're ready to entertain dating again and possibly having a serious relationship. So it's different for everyone. It really can't definitively say in 1 year you will be ready. When you feel like in your heart and your mind that you're ready for it, then I say go for it, and don't compare yourself to someone else, because all of us are different.
I think that's such a great answer, Twyla. But once again, I know there are a lot of people who said 6 months is too short. 1 year is too long. You're not healed yet. If you're watching us today, if you believe 6 months is too short, please drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think should be the timeline, if there's a timeline. However, I do believe, Twyla, you're correct in that different people, different strokes for different folks.
That's great.
So it's really interesting. We have a couple of questions in the chat section.
Oh, awesome.
One of the questions says, "What do you think about a person who introduced their boyfriend, girlfriend to their kids as uncle or auntie?"
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
This is uncle. This is auntie such and such. This is my little boy Johnny, or this is my little girl Susie. What's your view on that?
Well, my question would be why, and is there something they're trying to conceal or hide from the child? I don't understand why a person would want to do that, first off, and then second off, I would question that. I would ask. So if, say for me, if that's my ex, if my boyfriend was doing that, I would question that, right? I would say, what's going on here? Yeah. There's an underlying reason for that, and I just don't know what it is without asking that person.
I got you. Let me ask you this. This is another question from our section. It says, do you think that in your opinion, is it easier for men or women to start over, or is it the same? Is it equally the same for men and women to start over, or is there one who has the ability to start over in your experience?
I'm not trying to sound like I'm bashing a man, but I really feel like men, they do move on a little quicker than women. I could be completely wrong, Coach Ricardo, but that's just my experience.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're saying men have a tendency, you believe, that they move on a little bit faster than women? Do you think it's because of the emotional makeup of women?
Yes, I was getting ready to say, because women, we are emotionally driven, and yes, I do. And the male could still be struggling with the divorce itself, but I don't believe they show it as much as we do as women. Yeah. Yeah. And especially if there was infidelity involved, maybe someone's moved on or the marriage ended because of infidelity. And sometimes
Infidelity on the male or the female side, because because does that balance it out? If the woman already have a guy that she was she committed, let's just say adultery, does it set her up for a faster startup, or are you talking about a guy who has a woman on the side?
I think both. Either or. If infidelity or adultery was involved, then women or men probably could move on faster because they've already moved on, right? They have someone that they started a relationship with while they were still married inside the marriage. So, yeah.
We got more questions coming in. I appreciate the answers and the questions both. Listen, do you think the court system is biased towards women and treat men as villains? What's your view on that?
Wow. Ooh, we're getting some good ones tonight, Coach Ricardo. Wow. I'm not quite sure if they treat men as villains. Of course, 9 times out of 10, the man is the parent that's outside the home. So they're the ones that obviously the judge establishes the child support payments and things of that nature. So it may tend to look like the courts is biased and treat the men as villains, but I don't necessarily think that may be true. I just think the court system has to go by the law and do what's right within the law.
Wow. There's a question, a comment in the section says some women have no emotions. There are heartless women. What's your view on that?
Oh yeah, there are. There are heartless women just as male. Men can be heartless as well. So it's not always the man. Absolutely. So, and it's not always the person that initiated the divorce either, so absolutely. This could go both ways, men and women alike.
Deciding to live effectively after divorce, your closing thoughts. There are people out there watching us. A lot will watch us after this live goes off, wanting to pick to pieces what we suggested in this talk. Life after divorce, living effectively. What does that look like to you?
Life after divorce, living effectively is you have peace, you have forgiven yourself, you've forgiven the other person, and you move on and treat your kids and be there for your kids and live your best life. Start a business, write a book, go back to school, finish that degree. Strengthen your relationship with God. That's the time to really focus on and make yourself a better you and focus on that.
That's what I'm talking about. Before we go, tell our viewing audience about your platform. You've launched lately and is continuing to evolve as Coach Twyla. Tell us a little bit about that as we prepare to close our talk.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm Coach Twyla. I am out there on Instagram and Facebook under Coach Twyla. In the new platform, as Coach Ricardo said, it is evolving. However, I have coined the phrase and the title. I'm Coach Twyla, the Get Your Happy Back Divorce Coach. And I want to help you get your happy back because I did, and it's fun. And it's not just for women. I also coach men as well. You can reach me or find me out on my website, www.twylammarks.com. So yes, I want to help you, sincerely help you get your happy back. All the things that we've been talking about, let's chat.
That's what I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, please follow her on social media. She's doing a phenomenal job. And the truth is, there are a lot of hurting people out there. I teach this to my clients. Someone is assigned to help you. Get the help. There's a statement that is so true that I hold dear to my heart, and it says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Maybe you're watching us for the very first time and you are connecting with the message that Twyla is presenting today. Follow her, connect with her, find out how you can capitalize on the services that she has to provide. As a matter of fact, this could be the moment that literally helps you to tap into another season or a new level of living once you decide to utilize the information and connect with someone who can help you. So thank you so much, Twyla, for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. We will definitely have to do this again.
Yeah.
I have some huge plans in the future to do a series of conversation, and we would love for you to be a part of that. So thank you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much for having me, Coach Ricardo. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a pleasure, and it's definitely an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Twyla Marks. Make sure you follow her on social media. If it's your first time watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. If you enjoyed this conversation, give us a thumbs up. It really does help. If you have a question, please put it in the comment section. We will try our best to answer those questions. Or if you have a question for Twyla, we will forward it to her. You never know. She may do a live talk on the question that you present on her platform. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.